The Philadelphia 76ers have just landed the 3rd overall pick in the 2025 June NBA draft, and we have to talk about it. Instant reaction alongside Derek Bodner. I'm Devon Givens. This is the PHLY Sixers podcast. Derek, the theater was real. As we saw, Kyle was reading out for us how you wanted it to go. You needed 2 teams to jump back. To jump in. They did so, and we were afraid. But as it really played out, they made it to the commercial, and that's all that mattered, where they got the 3rd overall pick. They were so close, so close to the prize in the draft next month of Cooper Flag, but they do not get it. The Dallas Mavericks finished with the top overall pick and the right to draft Cooper Flag. The San Antonio Spurs move up with the right to draft at number 2, and potentially we think Dylan Harper is going to be very interesting with all the guards that they have there, including De'Aaron Fox and Stephen Castle. But for the Philadelphia 76ers, finishing with the 5th best lottery odds due to the 5th worst record, but they are in a decent spot where they have an opportunity to draft a pretty decent young player from the collegiate pool.
Yeah, there's 2 sort of competing emotions going on. Mm-hmm. One, there is the absolute jubilation of keeping your pick, which we have all been desperately hoping for. We were sort of taking a temperature check on whether or not, if you could be guaranteed the 5th pick with no chance of moving up, would you take it? Everyone here pretty much did so. Yes. So you get that out of the way. Right. That is a great outcome.
Right.
And then you almost immediately transition to okay, you're not getting one of the 2 prizes in this draft. What does that mean? And we recently had, Kyle and I had a show on Friday where we went through our big boards. There's going to be a lot of debate. Ace Bailey is going to be at the center of that. There's VJ Edgecombe. They sort of seem like the 2 most likely candidates that we would be talking about. But there's going to be a lot of players who are going to come up. A lot of players who have, skill sets that can translate to the NBA, also have some concerns. There is going to be one player out of this group that we, ends up turning into a major force in the NBA. It just gets a little murkier now. You don't know. You can't project with as much certainty as you could with Cooper Flag or with Dylan Harper. Assuming they do go 1 or 2, mistakes are made on draft night. They seem pretty locked in. You never know. Maybe, I think Sacramento, like you mentioned, with how many guards they have, is the most interesting. But still, you expect them to go 1 or 2. Now you have to really do your homework. Daryl Morey has had a lot of success in the draft with Tyrese Maxey, with Jared McCain, even further on down with players like Paul Reed and Adem Bona and Justin Edwards as an undrafted. Done a really good job of betting on people and evaluating not only skill sets in basketball players, but evaluating people as well. And with this 3rd pick, even though you're going to have a chance to take somebody with an immense amount of talent and physical tools, you're drafting a person as well. And this is where Daryl Morey, he, like I said, you rely on the track record a little bit. You hope that his past success indicates that he has some sort of a competitive advantage with this and being able to evaluate the people as well, because it is going to come down to, which one makes the most of their talents, because everyone that you draft here, like I said, has an immense amount of talent and has some pretty significant flaws. That's why they are not a 1 or 2 pick. It'll be interesting to see what he does. And
the 2 names that will most likely be most talked about in this spot are Baylor's VJ Edgecombe and Rutgers Ace Bailey. Yep. 2 different players in every sense of the word. But 2 players that, a lot of people can look at. And one of the things I know I talked about with you guys and, of course, super producer Bree, is that while they may have a type of player like this on their roster, they don't have one at the age of 19 that you will be getting with these 2 players. So what separates the 2 where you may give one edge to the other in the Sixers specific situation?
Yeah, so I guess just a real quick overview of those 2. You've got Ace Bailey, 6'9" forward with feathery smooth shooting touch. He can shoot off the catch. He can shoot, rise up and shoot over top of the defense. That's really what he makes his bread and butter right now. It is a borderline elite skill.
Yep.
Like if you look at just pure catch and shoot efficiency on contested jumpers, he was as good as anyone in this draft. You add in the fact that, like I said, he is 6'9" with good length and pretty good open court athleticism. There's a lot to work with. There are some pretty significant flaws in his game, namely passing. He had a very negative assist-to-turnover ratio with, I think, about 2.5 turnovers to about 1.5 assists. That is a pretty major red flag. And he also struggles to get all the way to the rim a little bit. His handle needs a lot of refinement, but there's a lot of natural tools to work with. And then you have VJ Edgecombe, who's pretty much the exact opposite, more of an off-ball player, like 6'5", with about a 6'7", 6'8" wingspan, who's a real good point-of-attack defender, like really good, one of the best in the class at doing that. He actually came out and earlier today measured, a little better at the combine with a little longer arms. Might give him a little bit more chance to defend like a small forward spot and like a 3-guard lineup that might make him a little bit more valuable. But the defense, the off-ball shooting, and he might be the most athletic guard in his class. So he can really get out in the open court and run. He's, his handle needs some work. His pull-up jumper needs some work. He doesn't necessarily get to his spots off the dribble as well as you would like for a third pick, but he has that, like I said, that defense, off-ball shooting, off-ball cutting, and really ability to get out in transition.
Starting with Ace Bailey quickly here, just because of the measurements that you alluded to, measured out at 6'9", with shoes on with the combine there in Chicago. But that's pretty good for him, all things considered, due to the fact that there were a lot of concerns, Derek, that he might just simply be a 6'7" guy, and that was listed as 6'10". While he's not 6'10", he's still 6'9", so it's closer to that than it was that 6'7" that some were concerned about.
Yeah, no, he had measured in high school at like 6'7" without shoes, so 6'8", 6'8.5" with shoes. He came out maybe a half inch taller than that. His measurements are okay. They're not necessarily like a legitimate 6'10", would add a little bit of intrigue, but that's really not. Like, part of the reason I think people obsess about the length for Ace Bailey is because him shooting over top of the defense is really his elite skill.
Yeah.
So even just a little bit taken off at the top there, people worry about. But if he can develop the way that he add to his game in terms of ball handling, in terms of distribution, in terms of getting to the rim, then that extra inch really isn't going to matter all that much. He is, like I said, he's a really talented prospect who has some flaws that he needs to clean up to reach.
They all have flaws. Yep. They all have flaws. Well, before all of this played out, we all of us said, just stay in the top 6. But when you're live in the moment and it happens the way it happens,
that number 1 pick,
you get a little greedy and then you get a little bit of disappointment when it doesn't happen. But look, here we are where we have an offseason where the Philadelphia 76ers once again will have the 3rd overall pick and the 35th overall pick in the 2nd round because they have that 2nd round pick as well. So that's going to be one that we'll also talk about as we go along this offseason while we're projecting and previewing these players. At some point, we're going to start to talk about some players that we may like there early in the 2nd round. And are there players that are worth using that 35th pick to maybe move into the back end of that 1st round of the 2025 NBA draft? The Philadelphia 76ers, once again, they win the night a little bit, but Dallas and San Antonio kind of won it bigly, bigly for this one. But for us, a lot of good content to talk about this offseason now that we are at the 3rd spot for the Sixers. Now on the clock, Daryl Morey, Elton Brand, and Nick Nurse to figure out the type of player that they want to select at 3, or maybe, just maybe, trade out and trade back and select a little bit on the back end and still pick up some assets. Either way, a lot for us to talk about, and we will do so every day, Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast. So for Derek, Bree, I'm Devon. We'll talk to you all summer at 3 right here on the PHLY Sixers podcast.